I'll tell you what our plan is for this hour. It's to have a conversation with Professor George Wajackoyah, who is the Roots Party leader as well as 2027 presidential candidate. He's here this morning. Professor, good morning.
Morning to you.
How are you doing?
I'm doing fine, and yourselves?
Salam sana.
Kabisa. Welcome.
Thank you.
We're going to get into it this morning. Just before we do that, we know that you've been, in the skies landing. You've been in the northern part of this world. You've been in the US. You've been through Mexico, all over the place. You'll give us some insights about that. But Dennis here has been to Sierra Leone.
Yes. You know, a country of around 8.6 million people. You talk about a country that borders Guinea, Liberia, and the Atlantic Ocean. And when you talk about resources, the country is rich in diamonds, rich in gold, is rich in fish, titanium, all these in this country. And you look at the history, especially when it comes to the resources they have, especially in the mining sector, and the blood diamonds of Sierra Leone comes to mind, what that did to the people and how many died as extraction was happening in the country. But now we talk about the reforms that the country have put in place to ensure that the entire sector is for the benefit of the locals. Good thing, one would say. But as well, we also have proverbs that we went to mind there. When a crocodile smiles, it's not for kindness. When a crocodile smiles, it is not for kindness. How would you interpret that?
Maybe because it's angry.
Hungry.
Hungry. Okay.
Angry stroke hungry. You talk of Sierra Leone. Valentino Strasser was my student, the former president. Yeah.
Okay. You have connections in the country, eh?
Yes.
Nice.
The crocodile could actually be angry. It's not smiling.
Because how can you smile when your eyes are in water? Something coming from water. How do you determine whether it is smiling? If it opens its mouth, is it angry or hungry? Is it smiling? How can you discern unless you have Bishop Prophet War's powers? But I don't know. That's as
your interpretation is always right. Your interpretation that's the beauty about proverbs. Your interpretation is always right.
Thank you.
Yes.
Well, there are many things happening at the moment, and we'll come to what you have then been doing over the last couple of months, but at the same time, things that have been happening in this region over the last couple of months that you've been directly involved with, Prof. There was an election in Tanzania just last month. There is going to be an election in Uganda next month, and there are certain things that are happening in the country that many would say has formed an unholy trinity of the lack of social justice. And you're directly involved in this because you have always been a fighter or a champion of making sure that justice across board is not just perceived, but is actually a reality. Your take on how things have unfolded in the last couple of weeks?
Thank you for that question. First of all, let me make it clear. Tindu Lis, who was my classmate in Warwick University at master's level, which informs you why I've been very much involved in Tanzania and why I've been involved from the time of Magufuli when I represented the former member of parliament for Arusha Mjini, God bless Lema, how I crossed into Tanzania and smuggled in. Is the word smuggling the right one?
Let's go with it. It's already out there.
Yeah, I crossed, and I had to bring about one member of parliament and then 5 Diwanis or MCS, worked on their case, and then they went to Canada. Canadian government took them to Canada for asylum. But if you tell me about the unfolding realities in East Africa, you used the word election in Tanzania and the pending election in Uganda. There are no elections. Yeah, I don't know how to define the word election. There's no human suffrage in the term or the wording of elections. Elections, electing who? These people have become dictators, both Museveni and Suluhu. And I have no respect for them, because of the inhuman and degrading treatment they are treating the people of their nations. As a matter of fact, I'm in tandem recognition with the current president of Botswana, who said, no, this is a sham. And he has said president. And then you get our government sending Kindiki to go and affirm dictatorship, confirm dictatorship. That means the Kenya government is in tandem in reality. It is authorizing and legitimizing abductions. It is authorizing and legitimizing illegalities. It is authorizing and legitimizing the inhumanity. Because a person like Kindiki is a professor of law. He should be disbarred for legitimizing illegalities. That's my stand.
And yet, when you talk about the region as is, Kenya has been silent. Look at Kenyans who've been killed in Tanzania. Look at Kenyans who've been abducted in Tanzania and tortured. Boniface Mwangi coming to mind on that. And Kenya, look at the position that Kenya took. We exported our bad manners to Tanzania at that time. You look at Nicholas Oyo and Bob Njagi in Uganda, picked up in Uganda, put in jail for 38 days. Ugandan government starts as security agencies we do not know, only for the president of Uganda to come out and admit that yes, indeed, they picked the Kenyans and put them in a fridge. You look at what is happening in South Sudan. Kenya being at the center of it all, RSF meeting the leader, meeting the president in Nairobi, signing alternative governments in Nairobi. What does this speak of Kenya and its diplomatic position?
There's no diplomacy in Kenya because Kenya is set president of abductions. Kenya has set the trend. We've had abductions here. People have disappeared. People have been killed. So if Suluhu is doing that, she's just legitimizing what is happening in Kenya. So we cannot come here and kiss and tell and say, oh, sijui anafanya nini. We are the ones who are the problem. We are the ones who have set the precedent. And then we come out and we say that we are now going to compensate those who have been abducted and killed. Playing about with people's conscience is unforgiven. You can't forget it. Nobody can forgive you. So we cannot now come and say, oh, Tanzania is doing this, Uganda is doing this, yet we are the legitimate oppressors. Kenyan government is a legitimate oppressor. They have oppressed their own subjects. And as a lawyer and as a Kenyan, I'm so pained to speak in the following way. They have set the standards. When we were being shot at during Maandamano, you could hear walkie-talkies. Somebody saying, finish the target. Someone giving a command, maliza your target, umemaliza mapana. So what are we pretending for? Then we call ourselves a democratic nation. That's why I've refused to join any of my colleagues who are now struggling for power and apportioning themselves positions. So, we are opposition. We are going to do the same thing Ruto is doing. Mimi nataka kuwa prime minister. Huyu atakuwa sijui minister for what. Huyu atakuwa hivi na mimi nitabaki na 50%. Is that the kind of Kenya we want? Answer me.
Well, I think that is the question. And along those lines, Prof, is that there has been the sentiment that should Kenya be involved in the happenings of other countries, a senator has been quite vocal about, well, don't go and put your nose essentially in what is happening in other countries and then reserve the right to complain later about what may happen to you. Does Kenya have a responsibility or business to be involved in the happenings in neighboring countries?
I teach international law. I teach public international law, and I also teach private international law. And I teach these subjects up to the research level. the so-called instruments of international law are very clear. We have articles that speak on sovereignty. We have also the procedure of how, stipulated in the Constitution and in regulations of each member state, giving procedures and governance procedures. For example, if we look at the conventional procedures in the United Kingdom, where I also teach, the UK has no written constitution, but it operates on conventions under the royal prerogatives, where a prime minister in the United Kingdom cannot make unilateral statements depicting on foreign nation without cabinet approval. And that is the norm. And that's the standard norm that ought to be applied elsewhere, including Kenya. But where things are done in secrecy, where hypocrisy takes precedent, and where hands are shaken under the table, then you come up and you say that you are a sovereign nation. When Museveni is now threatening Kenya, he has a right to threaten Kenya because Kenya is interfering. It's going against the principles of non-interference in the sovereignty of other countries without the approval of the Kenyan people through cabinet resolutions. I'm not surprised. So Kenya has no right to interfere in other people's, in other nations, in other territories without justification. But however, if you look at Article 39 of the United Nations Charter, and read it in tandem with Article 41 or Resolution 41, those two embeds the way and procedure on which nation can act outside its sovereignty when there is a threat, self-determination threatened, then they can apply self-defense to preempt what is coming. We have not reached there yet. We are starting declaring war with other countries by interfering in their nations, by siding with people with different functions in those nations to cause mayhem. We should not be doing that now.
So activists have called for, protests. Activists have called for demonstrations against what they have described as authoritarian governance, almost dictatorship. Is that a meddling in other countries' affairs, or is that for asking for social justice? How would you see that call?
If it is that somebody somewhere is looking at his neighbor on the neighboring principle, and he sees that the neighbor is being treated in a manner which is likely to cause aggression either to that particular neighbor or myself, then you can apply the principles of humanity to reach out to your neighbor and assist that neighbor and restore moral responsibility. And therefore, if, for example, the youth or the Genesis see other Genesis from other countries going through unilateral kind of aggression by those kind of those particular states, they have a right to cross over and restore. Because the world we live in under the United Nations Charter is pegged on peacefulness, peace. The UN Charter on Human Rights talks about peace. It does not define the barriers or the borders of peace. And therefore, any human being who sees atrocities happening in another country has a right to reach out. We can look at the ANC during the apartheid era, when Mandela was actually leading the Supremos, when Mwalimu Julius Nyerere came out and he said, you know what? Let us see what you can do for our brothers and sisters in South Africa. And he was joined by Kenneth Kaunda of Zambia and Fidel Castro to bring humanity in that region, of which some of us, when we were in exile, we have also extended that to fight for those countries that were undergoing such kind of surgical behavior. And Kenya is no exception.
So therefore, Prof, as we have this discussion today, it is a question of Kenya belongs to the East Africa community. And through the East Africa community, it is in place so that the citizens of all these countries can work together, do business together, live together, intermarry, and become, we're basically one people, though with sovereign borders. But even while at it, there is a feeling that if you look at statements that were made from Tanzania, majirani zetu wamekabidhiwa kwao, wameleta tabia zao huku nyumbani. That was in Tanzania. You go to Uganda and statement by President Yoweri Museveni. And in all these, the Foreign Affairs Ministry is quiet. Why? Do we have a foreign ministry that is thinking about its citizens who are living outside the country and have a stand? Do we have a stand as a country with regard to diplomacy and foreign affairs ministry?
Is the foreign affairs minister an expert on diplomacy? Can you compare Mudavadi with Kalonzo? You cannot. So issues of diplomacy, we cannot even talk about them. There's no expertise in that ministry. Somebody was picked and put there and pegged with the powers of a foreign minister. What can Mudavadi negotiate as far as foreign relations are concerned? What about if they had failed to take care of our own children, our own Kenyans who are working in the diaspora? Kenyans are being tortured in Saudi Arabia under flimsy contracts, private contracts which the government ought to have interfered, which the government ought to have come in to engage the government of Saudi to tell the people of Saudi that, look, Kenyans are coming to work in your country, but let us be in charge of the contracts so that you can see the human side of those contracts. Kenyans are treated like animals when they work in Middle East countries, and Kenyans die, and nobody's willing to. If a Brit died today in this country, if an American died today in this country, all that needs to be done is to inform the U.S. Embassy that a Kenyan has died, and they will come and put a flag, put the body in the flag and repatriate it to their country. Now, if you get Mudavadi, who cannot even account for the Kenyans who have been killed in Tanzania, because some, I don't know, I don't want to use an F word because it's too much. I mean, I'm pained about that woman across the border. You are a mama, I respect you, but for Samia Suluhu, I'll call her a woman because she has no morals. She has no moral turpitude. She is somebody who sits with a face value, and she can see her own children and grandchildren being murdered, and then she crosses her finger to Kenya and say, "Nyinyi na tabia zenu hizo." She ought to be removed today. Kenyan foreign policy is sick and dead because we don't see anything. I was in the diaspora the other day speaking to Kenyans in Minnesota, and I also met a Kenyan representative lady who has been elected there. The way we spoke and the way they cried for their country, they bring in millions of shillings every day. And the Minister of Foreign Affairs cannot sit down and say, okay, this money is coming from the diaspora, is caged for ABCD. Let's give them tax exemptions, tax rebates. They're telling Kenyans you can stay there, sisi tuko hapa. I love foreign policy. There have been no government condemnation of what has happened in Tanzania, except for farming by sending Kindiki. There have been no condemnation in Tanzania by any political leader. Any political leader, and any of my colleagues who are saying that they are fighting for one, what is it called? Opposition. They are busy apportioning themselves jobs. I want this one will be a prime minister, huyu atakuwa vice president, huyu atakuwa speaker this, na mimi nitachukua 50%. Is that the kind of country we need today? Instead of looking at issues in this country.
Well, what do we need? Because that's exactly what's happened, isn't it? Because we can look outside and talk about how Kenya's foreign policy is displaying itself in the region. But then foreign policy is often birthed from an initial policy of how you will operate in country. right? How you operate in country then dictates how you will operate outside of the country, whether it's with neighbors or whether it's people from different hemispheres. So in the country at the moment, what are we seeing? This exact thing that you said, Prof, is that those who would be the ones who would replace the current government, whenever that will be, don't seem to be concerned about these very things, which are the fundamentals of Kenyan society, but are more concerned about who will take what position to do what. It seems as though we may be outside trying to solve problems in the region, whereby in the pot, you don't know your leeks from your onions.
Yeah, look, what is the difference between we in opposition and Ruto? What is actually the difference? Probably Ruto is better than these people. If you have to compare the two, maybe better than me if you have to compare the two. Because what are we standing for as the opposition leaders in this country? Unaona kila siku wengine wanasema, oh, and if you don't see them standing on the vehicle condemning, singing Ruto every day, you see them sitting in boardrooms. Yet Kenyans are suffering, Kenyans are dying, Kenyans are being kidnapped in foreign countries, and yet none of them can come out to say, this is wrong, this is what we want to do for you. Saizi nasikia to, they are geared for 2027. We are geared for 2027. Mimi nataka kuwa president, huyu atakuwa huyu, huyu atakuwa huyu. Kenyans look at that and look at it. Are you replacing a reptile with a hyena? Probably that's what we are trying to do. And nobody wants to speak about this. But then you know what? You, the media, when you come out, you'll be like doing your own, you're paid to do some kind of statistics or to mepiki, but you're not looking at real issues. You are not identifying what's really bedeviling this country. What are we going to do? Sharing and saying 50% will be mine. Mulima ni wangu. And the young Gen Z who has been born who doesn't know about Mulima, what is he going to do? Sisi watu wa Western, lazima to group together. Tuende kwa table. My brother Natembe is hard saying that. Then what's the future of this country?
So then nobody who's offering themselves up for leadership, including you, Prof, then would be in a position to say, I am the better option today, based on what you're saying.
We are not talking of who is better than who. We are talking of people sitting together. And I'm yet to see any of my brothers, including Eugene, coming to sit with me saying, Professor, DAP policies are these ones. Let us get ourselves to discuss what's good so that we can put them together and put leadership aside so that we can come up with a blueprint and then ask Kenyans, or engage Kenyans on the blueprint we have so that Kenyans can decide. We are not telling Kenyans, and I'm a policy expert. I just got my second doctorate the other day from the US in public law and policy. So I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Instead of us talking, you bring what I have and I bring what I have. Let us see whether this is favorable to our nation. Let us engage our nation with these issues. You are coming in to say, Kasongo ende nyumbani. But what are you replacing Kasongo with?
Prof, we look at where we find ourselves today, leaders that we have in office today, the problems that do bedevil us. We've seen how everyone is now grouping themselves, wanting to get to power in 2027. The solution, therefore, is for Kenyans to interrogate who they put into these offices. The solution is for Kenyan, by the time they're going to put these votes, they have asked the difficult questions. But question is, Prof, even as Kenyans complain, do they know what they want?
The Genesis know what we want. Because they have demonstrated, they have come up and they have said, these old folks who gave birth to us do not know what we want today. And this is the way forward. And then instead, PBI, you kill a whole generation with one document on the table. Sasa sisi ndio vijana jensi wakae kando, sisi tuko hapa tufanye nini? I'm willing to give up. I'm willing to give up if these people come up and say, this is what you want. But you know what? You get some old men, some of them like myself, who are fossils. Let me use the words of Sifuna. Fossil, the kind of characters coming in to sit on the graves of Kenyans, coming in to think they are better than. And you'll find out that this person has been a member of parliament, he has been a senator, he has been a governor, he has been a minister, and he wants to continue that legacy by bringing in his spouses, his concubines, and his children. Yet the Gen Z generation is forgotten. And that's why I like Uhuru Kenyatta when he actually said that this issue is a melting pot and it's going to melt, yes, indeed. And they did not put policies together. We want policies that gear towards unemployment. We want policies that gear towards putting food on the table, particularly food production. We want policies that look at industrialization. We want policies that will look into situations and see what is it that we need to do. Where have we failed? And do we have countries that have actually succeeded, like Singapore? Where was Singapore in 1963, 1966? And where was Kenya at that particular time? What went wrong? What about corruption? Nobody's speaking about corruption. I wouldn't give you a cent if it's not justified. I take a loan to service that loan, and then outside there you get somebody who's coming up with money, measuring money on the scales. Where has this fool gotten this money from? If he has not stolen it. Alafu anapigiwa makofi. Kenyans, I have to blame you. Unapigia mwizi makofi atamelete. Sasa it becomes a darling. Wake up and look for people who can revive this country. Look at religious leaders today. Are they not the ones who brought us these problems?
How so?
One of them here abused me to be a bang smoker. This is Muheria. Muheria is the one who made a proclamation in Meru, in Nyeri, that this man is a bang smoker. Have I ever even smoked? I was using this to bring to let Kenyans know what we are going to engage them. They took me to court because they said we cannot have a bang smoker. They misunderstood me as a caricature. Here they are again now fighting and saying, oh, this is wrong. Yet they are the ones who are accepting money in the church. And if you find a church that accepts corrupt money, that's not a church, that's a business. So they should shut up.
Should they not call it out if they see it? Because the human mind allows you to have differing opinions in the same mind at different times.
What does the Bible speak about morality?
What does it say?
What are the 10 commandments speak? Don't they speak that thou shalt not steal? What about the Quran speak about stealing? What is the punishment? Is it not cutting off your arm?
Yes.
But when you come to Kenya, I give you money and you don't ask me where it has come from, and you are a church, then you're going to build that church with the stolen money, then you are going to heal souls from stolen environment. We don't want to see this kind of... It is this hypocrisy that you are trying to come out with. But people don't want to listen to people like us. Utakuta wengine wanasema huyo ni wazimu, wachaneni na huyo. But I will still remain a madman, and I'm happy to be a madman if things don't change. Let's speak about our country.
What are the things that you see right now that need to change? I mean, I think we all have a shopping list of things that need to actually start to be progressive. Everybody, and I think we're almost getting tired of it, that everybody gives example of Singapore without telling the truth of what Singapore really did to make sure that they went towards economic development. They sacrificed. They got rid of people who were guilty of stealing the country's money. They punished people. Some people to death because of what they did in that country to bleed the country dry. They insisted on plans. They implemented them. They sacked people who were not ready to work. We talk about it all the time. Singapore till we're blue in the face. But are you ready to follow the blueprint? I don't know of an architect who designs a building and then hands it over to the construction and says, okay, well, here's the plan, but do whatever you want to build the building. No. You have to follow the blueprint.
Roots Party manifesto is very clear that we shall hang all the thieves. We shall do away with some part of the Constitution, the human rights of the Constitution, which makes a thief who has stolen money earmarked for hospital and 500 patients. People have died because of this one man stealing money for drugs. Now you take that man today to court, and because of the market friendliness of corruption in courts, the judiciary, you find this person being given bail, and then the case will go on, and then after some time you'll find, they have been freed. In Wajackoyah's government, this is what will happen. As soon as I'm sworn in, trust me.
You'll suspend the Constitution?
Part of it, because there is nothing like a Constitution. A lot of people in this country are so ignorant of the word Constitution. There's only the constitution of this country is in the preamble. Just a few words, we the people. Anything that coming below can be changed by we the people, including myself. Let's have not the rigidity of censored mind, because a white man told us about the constitutional conventions, or constitution, which was copied and pasted. What we shall do, and this is part of our philosophy, we shall set up a tribunal made up of civilians, the clergy, members of the armed forces, let me say a jury type of tribunal, to try criminals. And they will be given a right of appeal. Those found guilty, Uhuru Park, we shall hang them upside down. If we hang at least 50, then that will minimize. Look at Greater Somaliland. You can go to Greater Somaliland and leave your money there, go to the hotel or carry on your business and come and find it. Greater Somaliland the other day was a pariah state. So we need an iron fist president to put things right. How can one man own the entire land equivalent to the whole of Kisumu? Look at some of these leaders who are acquiring land every day, and people are squattering in their own land. Look at Taita Taveta. The people of Taita Taveta are squatters in their own land. The Maasai community, that's community land. I'm putting them on notice. I'm putting them on notice that Wajackoyah's government will hang them. And I'm not joking.
Professor, we look at the problem that we have as a country, and I want to look at a situation where Kenyans finally take charge. But what do I mean with that? So political parties have always come up with their manifesto, including you have your manifesto. But here is a position where, are we ready for a conversation where Kenyans say, we have seen your manifesto, these are our issues, this is our manifesto, that we want you to implement the issues that we have, and this is our agenda. Are we looking at a point where finally the political class will listen to the Mwananchi, take the views of Mwananchi and work on that problem?
It's possible. I've lived in the UK for over 20 years. I've lived in the US. I've practiced in both countries, and I've seen the conventions and the constitution of the US, of course, with the state government constitution. You know, if you have a people's driven manifesto, a manifesto that has been that emanates from the people themselves. For example, in the UK, if you want to implement anything, you have town hall meetings where people can sit down in town halls and discuss what they want to be done by the local assembly. And then they will have to vote on that, and whoever is approved has a right of judicial review to review any decision that has come from them. In Kenya, you cannot write a policy for Mama Mboga without involving Mama Mboga.
Surely.
And we have, for example, Roots Party is coming up with the regionalization of the government, where we can actually have 8 regions, each region either with a chief minister or a prime minister, and then counties and local governments within that region so that they can debate. In this sense, power will be taken back to the people to actually discuss what they want and how they want it done, as opposed to one central policy which comes from top-down mechanism. Let us decentralize stuff. The Luos can sit and say, this is Lake Victoria. We have been trading fish and mining fish from this lake for many years. We've been using this water for this. What we now want is, we want some kind of sanitation, an industry, what have you, instead of taking fish from Lake Victoria and processing it in Thika. I mean, these are things that if people are given authority and are given incentives and are given and supported by finances, then people will decide to do what they want to do at that particular time. Look at the Maasai, for example. The Maasai Narok County rears cattle. They have wheat. Tourism is a water catchment area and it's a human resource area. Now you find out that the revenue that is collected in this area, instead of going to be debated in Narok County, so that Narok County can actually look at the needs for required at that particular level, so that they can say, okay, we shall vote to apportion this amount of money because of the needs, and then the rest we shall take it to Nakuru, which is the capital city of Rift Valley, in that case, so that Nakuru can also debate and then send a fraction of that money to central government. Then you will see that there will be a trajectory of circulation of money within and collection revenue. But here, money is collected, taken somewhere, then account is given, and you have very corrupt governors in this country. 90% of governors in Kenya ought to be executed, because the situation is so bad that the money either is delayed, or even if it comes in, contractors are not paid, employees of the counties are not paid, and nobody can ask. And the Senate, instead of doing its work of oversight, they're busy running to counties, like what happened in Busia the other day, when they were really putting down and talking down upon the governor of Busia. And then at night they are seen dancing together and drinking and whining.
You seem to think that, you seem to, be liking this idea that the only answer to a lot of the rot that is existent in the country currently is death by its perpetrators.
Death by?
The perpetrators of this rot. You seem to think that the only answer is not having prosecution, is death.
I talked of prosecution.
Yeah.
I talked of a tribunal, and the rule of law.
Should they be found guilty?
Yes. They have a right to appeal, but we shall have special tribunals anchored in law. Yeah. It's not just picking somebody and killing him.
Right.
No. Jury kind of tribunal that will listen to their
Still
case.
will follow the law.
Yes.
Still will follow the law. All right. I asked you what you think the issues are that are currently in the country. According to you, what do you think the ones are that need attention at the moment, that somebody would need to deliver this country from?
Complete overhaul of the whole system. Because we are tired of people going into election mood after every election. And then we are also tired of the opposition ganging up instead of talking to Kenyans and asking Kenyans what they want. So we need a complete overhaul of electoral system. We need also to reform the electoral system. Like now, right now, we are in an era of voter registration. I have a different opinion. Voter registration should be done at a time when somebody wants to acquire an ID, so that we don't actually come in this issue of entrepreneur and what have you. And we need just to overhaul what we can. We need to talk to each other, and we need implementation. We don't have an implementer. We have every resources we have in the country, but we don't have a mechanism of implementation, because everyone now, including from the president top down, they're all corrupt.
So there's not a problem with lack of resources like we're told all the time?
No, we have everything. Kenya has got 8 climates. You can move from one to the other within 14, 15 minutes. We have land. Land has everything. We have waters with the fish. We have human resource. We have schools. All we need is a thorough cleanup of the system.
So, Prof, when you talk about elections in the country, the body that comes in for IEBC, the election system that you say also need an overhaul. But even as we talk about IEBC, as we speak right now, there is the voter registration exercise that is ongoing. The numbers that you've received is a little bit over 90,000 Kenyans.
It was 2.8 million, but they had to steal everything to make it. Yes.
So the official numbers we've gotten is 90,000. But they're targeting to get 6.3 million. You say the numbers are 2-point-something million.
Oh, I thought you were asking me what I got before.
No.
Sorry.
Say the registration that is ongoing at the moment. So when we talk about the ongoing exercise by IEBC, one would say there is no information. Kenyans do not know, first of all, where they're supposed to go register, and the entire practice, the distance involved is far. Do you, where you sit as Wajackoyah, because you'll be going to elections, the IEBC will be there. Do you trust IEBC to deliver? And what's your comment on the ongoing voter registration exercise being undertaken by IEBC?
It's a sham, because if you look at let me give an example of registration in the diaspora in the last election. In America, they only registered 100. And how many Kenyans are in the US? That's number one. The issue was fear. If we register, Luos could be more, than Kikuyus, or Kikuyus could be more. So if you register more of this, that was number one. Number two, can they avail data of registration today and tell us the mechanisms that they are using? Yet you have these illegalities of chiefs and county commissioners, something that was abrogated by the previous constitution. Why can't they use these county commissioners, regional commissioners, to register people? Why can't they come up with a blueprint and say that every Kenyan who is not registered, you should go to the nearest county commissioner's office and register there? So whatever they are doing to me, and also following the way the IBC commission was constituted, it was just a rubber stamp to stamp Ruto's authority in 2027.
So if there's no trust of the body that is going to be essentially that is already entrusted constitutionally to then carry out voter registration, voter education, and then oversee elections. If there's no trust there already with a new, and that's why I guess you have a new IEBC with every election. Yeah. It doesn't happen in many countries. The IEBC that you had in place for the last election likely will be there for another, except for the countries that don't have a body to oversee elections. They have volunteers that are plugged into a system. But if there's no trust for a system in the very beginning, it seems as though we are many paces behind the starting line even before we begin the race.
In the last election, do your due diligence, and as a media house, just find out how many returning officers we had in the last elections and how many came from which tribe.
What would that matter?
And how many came from which tribe. That's what I'm repeating myself. And once you have found out that, then you can sit down and debate again. And also let's look at how many returning officers will be in this coming election, and how many will come from which tribe. And let's look at those people who come here, those experts who come to count the votes or to bring those machines that count votes and what have you.
I'm sure we can find out what those numbers are.
Voter printing. Do we have them being printed now? Have they been printed?
Are they
in the process of being printed? Who is printing them? How many are being printed? And then we can sit down and... Because we also get raw intelligence anyway.
Sure, I'm sure we can come up with those, we can find that information. But there's something that you're alluding to, Prof. That there is because the question was, if there is no trust in a body that's constitutionally mandated to carry out processes prior to, after an election, then essentially, what are we saying? Are we going to see the same thing that we saw before? And then you adding what could be an allusion to that there is something underhanded or untoward going on towards this process?
Probably, and let's not just look at the IBC. Let's look at the Supreme Court. And let's look at what people like Martha Koome, whom I have no respect for, came up with some proposition or some regulations saying that we shall only have these timelines to listen to litigation, and we shall not allow this. She was speaking as if she had come from Anno Domini, or the kingdom come, and she's like, who was she to interfere, to speak for, to decide for? And then you get her saying, and then we shall only allow Raila and Ruto, not any other person, as if I never ran for president. Those are kind of animals that need to be flushed out because of inequities in the system, and nobody's willing to point at those particular things. We need complete overhaul, and if the Supreme Court has to come out with the regulations, let those regulations be debated in Parliament and be passed into legislation. Instead of waiting for people like us going to the High Court because I was an interested party and I'm thrown out. Hey, Mr. Wajackoyah, go away. You are not. Come on, we don't need that. Sorry.
Prof, we've described the problem with the country. Look at the election, IEBC, there is a problem. Look at the economy, there's a problem. Human rights, a problem. Diplomacy, a problem. But even as we talk about that, you want to be president of the Republic of Kenya. If today, George Wajackoyah, president of the Republic of Kenya, what solutions do you bring on the table?
I will not say that now, but let's wait until I become. Let me convince Kenyans with my manifesto. And then we wait when I take over.
That's interesting because President William Ruto, in the last couple of weeks, when he's been to different destinations, the one thing that he's been repeating is that those who have been saying that he's doing such a poor job don't have a plan. He said it yesterday as well, and he said all of these people who are saying one term, that's fine, but they don't have anything else to offer that we who are here at least are doing. I mean, he's gone on and said a number of things, but he said the crux here being that even for those who want to come in and take over, they don't have a plan, and neither are they talking about it now.
Actually, on that one, I agree with Ruto. Yeah, for the first time, let me say it openly. Yes, they don't have anything to offer. Yes, I'm also seeing that. What they have to offer is Ruto's name every day. They have not sat down, they have not come out, they have not asked, or maybe I'm naive on this, they have not come up and shown us what they have agreed as an economic political blueprint for the nation, so that they can actually distribute this for people to debate it. At least Ruto, as bad as he is, of course he's very bad, let me just put it that way, he's doing the bad things and he's offering those bad things, and we are seeing those bad things. But then these colleagues of mine are not offering anything, and maybe it's from on that proposition that he's talking.
Are you the alternative, and what is the alternative?
Why not? I'm the alternative because I have an iron hand. I know exactly how to fix things.
Okay, so tell me one thing that you would fix. I think it's very interesting. Just give us one example,
Corruption.
Prof. And how would you? I mean, you've told us that you will send people to tribunals, and that would that set a precedent?
Yes.
Would that set a precedent for others who think, oh my goodness, if I get my finger stuck in the cookie jar, then there's a possibility
Yes,
that I may
yes.
be hanged in the public gallows?
Yes.
Okay.
Corruption is key before we discuss any other thing. Corruption. The looted money, the looted land, whatever did what, crimes never wrought. We shall have to bring that out. We shall have a busy year of dealing with corruption and returning back what was stolen. And we can also close some embassies that have allowed our monies to be stashed in their countries. It will not be business as usual.
What would be your approach to education and health in the country? Because you look at education, capitation is a problem. Students of this country went to class and third term, money has not been sent. They went home without that being sent. Talk about healthcare. SHA today in the country is a problem. Wajackoyah, what would be your solution? Because then again, as president, it is in your docket.
I will not have a solution because the solution is already there. I will go into Kenyatta One administration and look at what he did that was so successful. Mzee Jomo Kenyatta had the best blueprint in terms of education, because education was free. He had the best blueprint in terms of healthcare, because healthcare was free and available and affordable. Mzee Kenyatta's policies on agriculture were very excellent, because Kenya was able to export food and livestock. Mzee Jomo Kenyatta's policies were adopted by other countries that became a success. Botswana adopted Mzee's policy. Singapore adopted Mzee's policy. So all we need is to implement. But I will do away with CBC. Yeah.
Why is that a problem?
Yeah, because how do you expect? Matiang'i brought some kind of weird system of education, and I blame him on that forever. You come up with something, and you say that we are going to adopt this without putting down the infrastructure. How do you expect a child in Pokot to learn on swimming classes or to learn about computerization without infrastructure being put there and issues of poverty being alleviated, so that you educate a child who is not hungry? So that thing is a sham and it's a scam. I'll do away with it.
Kenyans need a leader who is service delivery oriented. We've seen the opposite, that leaders get to power and the next thing that starts immediately is campaigns for the next election and not service delivery. How would you cure that, having to be on that seat, ensuring that legislators do their bit, the presidency does their bit, the cabinet does their bit? What is your solution to that?
I'll be a benevolent dictator.
Okay. And what does that entail?
Yeah. I'll be a benevolent dictator because I'll have to dictate some of these things. People might say that it will be inhuman. People might say that I will be a dictator, but I will have to do things with an iron fist, especially dealing with people who have put this country into a position where it is today.
With the right plans in place, with the proper mode of implementation, and punishment for those who would have been involved in getting this country into the mess that it is currently, it looks like that could be a three-pronged approach towards the kind of leadership that you would offer if being given the chance. Is that right?
Yes, and I'll have to include Gen Zs. Gen Zs will make much of the decisions, because we saw what they did recently and how they have been very successful in countries like Bengal, Nepal, Madagascar, and now Tanzania. That kind of revolution is needed, holistic revolution and holistic approach, whereby we don't have just a one-man band kind of system. Let's have these boys sit down with them and put them in all avenues of governance.
And that's how it would work. Professor George Wajackoyah is the Roots Party leader. He's also a presidential aspirant 2027. Thank you so much for being here with us this morning. Always good to talk. Good morning at 9 a.m.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.